Minister Zhu, what a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much. We talk about the lessons and experiences learned from 25 years ago Asian financial crisis. One of the things is what are likely to be the relations among countries and economies in the region. Now, you have some deep thoughts about that. Share that with us, please.
It's a very key year for China. You know, that's the 4th of July. It's very important for all Chinese. Hong Kong returned to motherland. And just 1 day after, in Thailand, there's lost the currency line, and Thailand Central Bank nearly lost all currencies of reserve. So they announced, let's give up the fixed rate, and the Thai currency, this big drop value. And it means the beginning of Asian financial crisis. Asian financial crisis have the similar reason with other financial crises in the world. Is domestic economic structure, imbalance of macroeconomic policy, too much external debt, and the mismatch between currencies and the borrowing lending term. However, the feature of Asian financial crisis is that very negative role played by international speculators, particularly some international hedge fund. That's you said, that's hard money, and that's made the financial crisis the more serious. And so Asian, particularly Southeast Asia countries, and then to Northeast Asia, including Korea, lots of big value of GDP. And that time, Chinese economy also be negative impact, but that's mainly on Chinese export, less than before. Chinese government announced we take very responsible policy and play the role as a big country, and we will not devalue of renminbi, and we will try every efforts to keep domestic economic growth at the target of 8%. What Chinese government side, and we do everything. Finally, Chinese currency keep very strong, although the export be continue impact, but we honor the wars.
Even though our economy is also facing some challenges.
We have that challenge domestically. It's a structure issue. We must be deepening our reform and keep our opening up policy. Although some people outside want decoupling with the Chinese economy, but we understand how important to keep this opening up policy. That's our very key oriented policy. We face the challenge, but we certainly will, for our domestic interest, we must be keep open up policy. We will try everything to keep the policy, including domestic economic structure policy and opening up policy, to help Chinese domestic economic reform and the structural reform too.
The structural reform is not easy, as we know, particularly now when the world is facing stagflation possibilities and also Chinese economy's economic growth as the result of the pandemic and related policies might also be slowed down. So, Minister Zhu, what do you make of these speed and possibility for doing structural reforms, and how crucial is that for China to prevent itself from being exposing to extreme danger, such as what happened 25 years ago, of course in a very different circumstance?
It's very important. First thing, I think that we must do everything to let Chinese economic development return to the potential economic level. That means about 5 to 6 point growth every year. And we can do more deepening analysis. If we see potential productivity is between 5 to 6%, and In that, that's around 2% is from all factor productivity. That is very important. That's a different contribution. That's not just investment, and that's from real innovation, and particularly both sides, and research investment, and the result of research being market used.
What was it like to you when you heard about the Thailand news, and then the domino effect to Indonesia, the Philippines, and then going to Hong Kong and some of the other countries later to South Korea? What was it like when you were serving in the international office of China's finance ministry?
Firstly, we must collect all information, and at that time is not like today, internet, and we must keep this contact with our counterpart in other countries. But very frankly, that time, due to historical reasons, between Chinese officials and the Japanese officials, no direct contact. And ASEAN countries, that's particularly eagerly want to strengthen regional cooperation. As you said, that's the crisis is from Thailand, and the Indonesia be very, very difficult situation followed. And then to South Korea, that's Northeast Asia. So Southeast Asia and Northeast Asia all in very difficult situation. And the Hong Kong monetary authorities also, that's with this motherland, with mainland financial department to talk about how to deal with the financial crisis. That time is from very morning to very late evening. We are very busy, and finally, we rethinking the situation. We begin to realize we must have the way to strengthen the regional cooperation. But that situation is totally different with today, because that time, usually international cooperation, even regional cooperation, should have the real base either from trade side cooperation as a beginning, and the financial cooperation is a high level or much high level. However, that time is financial crisis happened, forced us. We must thinking about how immediately establish that financial cooperation night. That's 1999 November. That's the second 10+3 leaders meeting. That time, Vice President Hu Jintao as the lead of Chinese delegation. The Chinese government in that meeting made that real important proposals to establish the financial deputy mechanism for 10+3 countries. And I, as a staff, joined that meeting. And Japanese financial deputy told me, "Oh, you are always reject the proposal from Japan, but we support your proposal. We support established as a 10+3 deputy meeting."
Because they see the significance.
Yeah, but the some regret is early they proposed to establish Asia Monetary Fund, but not China first. U.S. totally reject that. That's 1997 Japanese proposal, and the year after, Chinese proposal for deputy financial deputy dialogue mechanism. All countries, I mean ASEAN and China, Japan, Korea, agreed. The communication between China, Japan is from multilateral mechanism. And then, 1999, that's just as I said in the meeting, we had the triangle meeting between Japan, China, and South Korea in the next door of Diaoyutai Hotel.
What was it like for people, to think back at that time? What happened in 1997? You said that meeting took place in 1999, like 2 years ago. What were people thinking about that crisis? The crisis just gone.
Not totally gone, but 1998, 1997, still there's impact to the market, and not very stabilized, not totally returned to normal. So that's why we are very quickly working together and between China, Japan, South Korea, and between three countries with ASEAN colleagues, we are very quick move to the final conclusion before May of 2000.
I see.
That's in May of 2000, very important 10+3 finance minister meeting in Thailand. We all agree to establish Chiang Mai Initiative.
Chiang Mai Initiative has always been very crucial for regional development, and 10+3 has been one of the most key platforms.
Yeah.
So what about today? Things we talked about 25 years ago, the lessons.
Now, Chiang Mai Initiative had that's some step development. That's from very beginning just $80 billion swap, and now it's 240 billion. So the size is a big expansion, and the link between Chiang Mai Initiative with IMF conditionality now is increased to 40%. From 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%. That's people increased confidence to our regional cooperation, financial cooperation. Now, that's the next step is how to very effectively use the Chiang Mai Initiative. We call Chiang Mai Initiative modernization. We really hope that we can quickly to solve the problem, how to set up the price ceiling, how to fix that price. That's my suggestion is that as IMF lending and the World Bank IBRD lending in policy connect rate as a reference to set up the benchmark for Chiang Mai Initiative modernization. Next 10+3 meeting is in this year. I think that's October, middle of October of this year. I hope that this issue can have this breakthrough. And next one is that how to institutional Chiang Mai Initiative modernization. That's become that's real organization, and that's really how to make that total amount $240 billion commitment. How much portion can be used immediately just as available capital, and another part as callable capital. World Bank, IMF, all like this one, and usually is 10% to 20%. My suggestion at beginning is 10%, and also since that's 10+3 finance minister and the central bank governor already approved Chiang Mai Initiative modernization can use domestic currency. So that's a portion of immediately used part can include some domestic currency.
I see your professional analysis is very rewarding just to listen to, every step of the way, how the plan should be and how it would work out. But one thing is we are in the middle of geopolitics. This is something different compared to 1998, 1997, particularly, for example, the Russian-Ukraine issue, China-US strategic competition. So how do you see the environment in which that your proposal could work?
But firstly, I think that all countries in the region understand how important we increase our cooperation. And now, that's positively, and the situation is much, much different with 25 years ago. You can 10+3 country with ASEAN countries, the trade volume hugely increased. That's between ASEAN and China. Already China's #1 trade partner. So last year is more than 800 billion trade amount. So that's a very different.
Trading partner.
Yeah, and also we have that RCEP. That's a regional trade mechanism already established, and that's very important. And financial cooperation, we had some development already, step by step, big size, and very professional arrangement, including 10+3 microeconomic research office already established, and also already become international organization. So that if that's a Chiang Mai Initiative multilateralization become that institution, and firstly, we must do something as a company, limited company, because if you use this macroeconomic research policy as a secretariat, it already become the international organization. So should be first step as a company, and then go to real international organization. But that must be approved by all member countries' Congress. That's very complicated.
Minister Zhu, you've been working so hard on international and regional platforms. I remember you were heading the team for supporting the G20 and also APEC and many other international platforms. What do you make of, the current environment internationally, that these multilateral frameworks, as precious as they are, the capabilities are relatively limited compared to before?
I can only say when I was in office more than 20 years, that's gradually the change situation that time is be better, because that China role is more important, and that time that's all members want to establish connection with China. Now that's one challenge is China-US relations. Not only economic relation, also comprehensive relation. And that's how to handle that. That's very key. I think as economic official to deal with international affairs should be very professional. Use this very professional way. Firstly is protect your domestic interest. Any staff must put that as the #1 priority. And only with that, you can make that policy explanation to counterpart clear, and you can get respect. And then you can have real communication. Don't worry about debate, even point each other. That's no problem.
As long as it's professional.
Professional, and put domestic interest first, and then respect others, the points, and with professional discussion. And that's real way to protect domestic interest.
Minister Zhu, it has been such a pleasure. 25 years ago, you were working very hard with your colleagues, and China made it. And 25 years later, listening to you and your thoughts, it's absolutely rewarding and even refreshing. Thank you so much, sir.